Okay, let's dive into this. We hear the word burnout thrown around all the time, but what is it really? I can tell you it's a heck of a lot more than just feeling tired. In this explainer, we're going to dig deep and uncover what burnout is actually doing to our minds, our work, and maybe even our sense of who we are. You know that feeling, right? That sudden, overwhelming sense that you've just hit the wall. One minute, you're pushing, you're grinding, and the next, bam, there's just nothing left in the tank. It's a total body, total brain shutdown. And if that sounds even remotely familiar, well, you've already had a taste of what burnout feels like. But here's the thing. That feeling, that wall, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. The way we usually talk about burnout, it just doesn't capture the whole story. To really get it, we have to go deeper. Now, what's really interesting is how we frame this. The common view is pretty simple, right? You're just emotionally fatigued, like a phone on 1% battery. But the deeper view from our source material, wow. It calls it a metabolic collapse of meaning. Think about that. It's not just that your fuel tank is empty, it's that the whole engine that converts your effort into a sense of purpose has completely seized up.
Okay, that is a mouthful, so let's break it down, because this is huge. Structural depletion of cognitive agency. That just means your ability to think clearly, to make good decisions, it actually starts to fall apart. That metabolic collapse of meaning. That's the engine failure we just talked about. The why behind your work is just gone. And dissolution of identity, work, coherence, that's a fancy way of saying that the line between who you are and what you do gets so blurry that it just breaks. See, this isn't just stress. This is a fundamental breakdown of your operating system.
So if that's the big, deep definition, what does it actually look and feel like day to day? Let's dissect this thing. Let's look at the anatomy of burnout piece by piece. First off, burnout hits you emotionally. It starts with this exhaustion that is just bone deep. It's like your emotional bank account isn't just empty, it's massively overdrawn. And to protect yourself, you might start getting cynical. Then that cynicism can curdle into real resentment for your job. And before you know it, you're alienated, just totally disconnected from your work and why you ever cared in the first place. Next up, it comes for your mind. We're not just talking about being mentally tired. This is a cognitive fatigue where it feels like your brain's processing power has been cut in half. This leads to this awful feeling of inefficacy. You start to doubt you can do anything right. Your motivation just vanishes, and in the worst cases, it can feel like a complete cognitive breakdown. And finally, it affects how you relate to other people. Burnout makes you retreat into a shell. You start detaching from your coworkers, from your clients, from your role. And this withdrawal isn't just physical. You might be sitting in the meeting, but you've checked out. Your mind is a million miles away. The source calls this an unengaged presence, and it's the perfect description. So, these symptoms, the emotional drain, the brain fog, the social retreat, they don't just pop up out of nowhere. Think of them like earthquakes. The shaking is what you feel, but the real cause is these deep structural cracks, these fault lines in our work lives. So now, we're going to explore the 5 hidden fault lines that can cause our whole energy system to collapse. The source material gives us this fantastic framework to understand these cracks. It's called maps of meaning. And you can think of it like a diagnostic tool, one that helps us pinpoint the 5 key areas where our own personal energy economy can go bankrupt, leading straight to burnout. Let's walk through them. First, the energetic axis. This one's the most obvious. You're just spending way more energy than you're getting back. Simple as that. Non-stop crunch time with no real recovery. Second, the identity axis. Oof. This is a big one. It's when your self-worth gets completely wrapped up in how productive you are. You're not producing, you feel worthless. Third, the agency axis. This is all about control. Burnout thrives when you feel helpless, like you're just a cog in a machine with no say over your own work. Fourth, the social axis. We're social animals, you know? When you feel isolated at work, when there's no real community, that takes a huge toll. And last, the economic axis. This is more of a system-level problem, where the culture treats people like resources to be used up, like depreciating assets instead of humans who need to recharge. Okay, this brings us to what I think is the most powerful idea in this whole explainer. What if we've been looking at burnout all wrong? What if it's not a personal sickness that needs to be fixed? What if it's not a sign that you're broken, but a signal that the system is? What if burnout is actually valuable information? This is the key, right here. Burnout isn't just a pathology, a disease. It is information. It's a critical message being sent by our minds and bodies that the system we are operating in is fundamentally out of whack with our human needs. So, what is this signal telling us? Well, it's pointing a giant flashing arrow at a failed work design. It's screaming that what we need as people is completely misaligned with what our jobs demand from us. It's a warning that our cognitive metabolism is unsustainable, and that the system values machine-like efficiency over actual human well-being.
And this last point, man, it's more critical right now than ever before. The struggle against burnout is really a battle being fought at the intersection of our very human limitations and this relentless modern drive for superhuman productivity, a drive that's now being put on steroids by technology. I mean, think about it. As AI just keeps pushing the boundaries of productivity, the pressure on us just gets more intense. But we're still biological. We have limits. And burnout is that fracture point. It's where our human hardware simply can't keep up with the demands of software and systems designed for machines. We're being asked to compete with tech that never gets tired, never needs a vacation, and never has to find meaning in its work.
So what's the big takeaway here? Cognitively, we have to accept a simple truth. Humans have limits. AI doesn't. Economically, burnout isn't some personal problem. It's a massive, silent tax on an organization's productivity. Organizationally, the answer isn't to fix the burned-out individual, but to redesign the system that's breaking them. For anyone in leadership, listen up. A crisis of meaning on your team is a crisis of management. And finally, philosophically, we have to remember that human beings need a purpose. We're not built for just perpetual, meaningless output. And that really leaves us with the million-dollar question for our future, doesn't it? As AI continues to completely redefine productivity, the challenge isn't just about using new tools. The real challenge is to stop, think, and consciously redesign work itself to build systems that honor our limits, that feed our need for meaning, and that allow us to remain fundamentally and sustainably human.